Yo, Beth, that shit crazy.
Welcome, everybody, to All Even Live exclusive. I am Barry Grant Jr., host of the All Even podcast. To my left is Matt the Great 𝐥𝐤𝐬𝐤, writer of the 𝐭𝐡𝐢𝐬𝐿. And who we have on the show today is formerly of ESPN. He's now with MSG Network. He co-hosts the Knicks pre and post game. He also is the host of MSG 150. Welcome to the show, Bill Pidto.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Thank you for being on the show. So, Bill,
it's great to be here.
How's your family doing? You know, everything's kind of opening up. So, you know, how's everything going on your side?
Well, I have two daughters. Warning to all you guys. I live with my wife and two daughters.
Okay.
I can't wait for the season to start.
Listen, I'm sure the feeling is mutual, right? They can't wait to get you out of the house. Like, just please, just let us go.
Actually, my older one graduated from Wisconsin and is looking for a job. My younger one just finished up her second year in Indiana. It's been great to have them home.
Awesome.
Love them very much. I hope they would say the same about me, but we're a pretty tight-knit group, so it's nice to have them home.
That's great, man. That's definitely great. So, Bill, what are your thoughts about the season that the Knicks had? Like, you know, it was really out of nowhere in regards to how they put everything together. People weren't expecting the Knicks to be this good. Like, did it shock you as well?
Yeah, we're just pleasantly surprised. The effort that they put forth on a consistent basis, I think, was the difference. Tom Thibodeau's a master, no matter where he's been, Chicago, Minnesota, and now New York, at getting his players to buy into playing hard.
Right.
You know, when you watched normal regular seasons, and we've been around the Knicks a while, it's not always the case where your team puts forth that incredible, intense effort, especially on the defensive end of the floor, night after night after night.
Right.
You win 41 games. The over-under was in the low 20s. Right? So I called it one of the great coaching jobs in the history of the league. I don't think that's overstating it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely agree with you.
Yeah, especially with the team that has such a young core, one of the younger rosters in the NBA, like the Knicks. It takes some of that sort of, no nonsense thing from Tom Thibodeau that he's been so successful with the entire time he's had head coaching positions in the NBA so far. Now, it kind of all came together at the same time. The stadium regulations for letting in bigger crowds came in just in time for fans to be back in MSG, for the Knicks to be back in the playoffs. And I've always kind of bought into this notion that, basketball, or the NBA in general, is better when the Knicks are a competitive team. How much can you speak to that?
Well, you saw the ratings, the top ratings for the regular season, the Knicks being viable, were on national TV a lot down the stretch. And the Clippers game on a Sunday afternoon was on national TV. And the Laker game at the end of the season was on national TV, and those two games got huge ratings even for the regular season.
Right.
The Knicks-Hawks series did really well. You know, we also broadcasted with TNT or ESPN, and the combined audience there in the New York market with us and the national network carrying the game as well was huge. So this is a crowd that really caught on, obviously being allowed into the arena during the playoffs. It was electric at MSG. I don't know if you guys saw after the Knicks won game 2, the 7th Avenue was like, it was like they won the championship.
It was.
They had to shut it down.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And I don't know how you guys feel, but I think that the fan base took a while to buy into this group. But then as things were unfolding, especially down the stretch into the playoffs, they were all in. And they, coming off the pandemic, you could see how intense this fan base was.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for Knicks fans, it's kind of like they have PTSD of disappointments and, slow starts, and then things have to kind of like, they go into rebuild mode. So when the team kind of started a little slow, they were like, okay, well, I guess it's another rebuilding year. We have to focus on draft picks and stuff like that. So, the fact that they got it together, man, it was really, really phenomenal. But the question I'd like to ask you, Bill, is do you feel that the Knicks need to add a Chris Paul level star to this team to be able to take them to the next level? Because what I've seen in regards to like the Phoenix Suns, I could have saw the same type of turnaround situation had Chris Paul got traded here. Because I'm one of the few people that say that Chris Paul and LeBron James are organizational builders. When they get there, things change immediately. So, do you feel that they need that level star player to come here, or can they just kind of build with these young players and continue to grow that type of progress?
I mean, I think things have turned around foundationally and culturally, even without Chris Paul. Now, the economics for me, that Chris Paul is 36 years old. He can opt out. He's going to be due $44 million if he stays with Phoenix on the last year of his deal. He opts out. Are you willing to pay him $90 million over 3 years? I don't know. There's no question in my mind that they need a legitimate starting point guard.
Yes.
And we talk in our group chat, guys from work. How about Spencer Dinwiddie?
But how much is too much for a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie?
Well, can you get him for 12 million times 3? I don't know. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Yeah. I would be really hesitant to give 90 million to Chris Paul. Because when you're talking about the foundation and the culture, you can make the case that the Knicks have been able to establish that even without Chris Paul.
That's fair.
Yeah. And when the Knicks always come up in conversation for attractive, free agent destinations. And the first thing everyone says is, they ever want to play in the Mecca, it's the Garden, right? Being someone who's been a part of the network and being a part of Madison Square Garden for so long, how much of an impact does it really make in terms of home court advantage or just playing with the spirit that's actually there? So how real is that for people that may not know?
Well, I would say this. We're in the internet era. We're in the era where you don't have to be in a major market to be a rock star.
Right.
It's true.
You can have an Instagram feed. You can have your commercial endorsements and be playing in a place like San Antonio, for example. So Chris Paul picked Phoenix.
Right.
Think about that. Think about where these guys go. You have the Bucks and the Suns in the championship. Giannis is an incredible star. He doesn't have to be in a major market. So I would think the most important thing is a winner. KD and Harden and Kyrie want to go with the Nets, not because of the market size, but because they thought that the Nets had the building blocks to be a winner. That's most important.
Right.
Because the Knicks won 41 games, they're much more of an attractive destination because they are a potential team on the rise. You throw into the fact that they play in New York, and that helps. But all those years, guys, when they weren't winning, they weren't able to attract free agents because people want to play for winning teams.
Right. No, definitely. I 100% agree with you. The fact that they've now established a culture, they are more of an attractive destination for anybody that wants to come here. So it's going to be an interesting summer. So in regards to you had brought it up earlier, Bill, that the Knicks need a point guard. Is there any other position that you would like to shore up for the Knicks to make them a better team other than point guard for next season?
Well, as much as we all love Reggie Bullock, and the one thing about this roster, the way it was constructed, is you had Bullock at $4 million, Noel at $5 million, and Burks at $6 million. Guys, Think about that. And Mitchell Robinson, still on his initial contract, makes $1.6 million bucks.
Right.
Taj is in there, hardly making any money. Derrick Rose is on a relatively low-paying deal at like $8 to $10 million. They got incredible value.
Right.
So they have big decisions to make. I would like to see. I know the coach loves Reggie Bullock. I would love to see a guy at that position that can defend like Bullock, that could shoot like Bullock, but could also create his own shot.
Right.
Bullock is a stand-alone, shooter with not a lot of mobility off the dribble. And I think they could improve if they can get someone that had more skills. But then you may give up something on defense. So I would say number one, a point guard, and then number two, another wing that can put the ball in the basket and also defend.
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely someone who's more skilled. A name that has been floated around roughly just because he's possibly going to request a trade out of where he is right now is Damian Lillard. But if you think about a package for Damian Lillard, I mean, are you basically tearing down what you have right now, which is working fine, just might need a few more years to improve, to get a superstar to put him in what is essentially would be a similar situation that he was unhappy in Portland?
I'd be hesitant given he's 31. I know he's got 3 years left on a deal. I don't know. It's like 30 something million dollars. It's like $100 million over the next 3 years. And then you're going to have to probably give up RJ and Mitch, maybe quickly, and all the number one picks, maybe 3 number one picks. I just think it's too much. When you look at the Nets guys, they had no bench.
Yeah.
You got to be real careful with a top heavy team. One of the things that's really interesting about the Bucks and the Suns, each of these teams has 8 or 9 guys.
Yeah.
Think of where they'd be. They wouldn't be anywhere without Porters, Connaughton for Milwaukee. The guys that come off the Suns bench have been really effective. If you go with Lillard, and then you got to re-up Randle. Who are you going to have on the roster? You're going to be potentially too top heavy. So now remember the draft, they got the 19th pick, the 21st pick, and the 32nd pick. Think about how much more depth they may be able to develop if just, let's say, 2 of those 3 players can become rotation guys.
And on the cheap for the next four years.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, definitely. That's actually a great point. The fact that, a lot of teams focus on the duos or the big 3. Everybody's formula, I think, can be different. We've seen with Milwaukee that they can have one guy be the alpha dog and have a lot of good players around them. Say, the Phoenix Suns, they have 2 guys and it works for them, but that may not necessarily work for the Knicks. The other thing too, do you think that Julius Randle can be able to maintain this? Because he had a great season, most improved player. He shocked a lot of people in regards to his consistency because he hasn't been very consistent throughout his career. Do you think that his playoff shortcomings in the Hawks series, do you think that he can be able to learn from that and kind of build on that and be a stable scorer or dependable guy in the playoffs going forward for the Knicks?
See, my thing is he had a lot of open shots in the series against the Hawks that he missed, and that was really the theme for a lot of these guys.
Right.
The season starts, the Knicks can't hit a 3 ball at all, and then whether it's because they had nothing to do but practice all the time in the gym, they ended up as the 4th best 3-point shooting team in the whole league.
Right.
And then the Hawks series hits and they can't make a shot. So I hope and I expect Randle to get back to his regular season form. What's going to be another really important piece, guys, of this offseason is Randle's contract situation, because the Knicks have a 1-year option at like $20 million. They can offer him an extension, but it's in Randle's benefit financially to wait to become unrestricted next year. He can make more money that way.
Right.
So does he just take the 1 year and then roll the dice? Or does he take what might be less money from the Knicks and get locked up now? It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think it all depends on, how much he likes his situation here, or, is it comfortability, or is it more, I need to get the most money that I can possibly get in my career. So,
and to your point, what if he regresses to how he was?
Right.
And says, I'm not going to take the extension. I'm going to bet on myself. And what if he goes to how he was before this year? Right. That would cost him potentially a fair amount of money.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Randle's contract's only guaranteed $4 million for next year. So we'll definitely see what happens with that. But Bill, I want to know how you felt about this, because I remember watching this, even though they lost in 5 games, but it was still watching the Hawks coming to MSG, and particularly watching Trae Young sort of embody this whole villain type thing in the Garden. I think it's one of the things that's going to revive this sort of New York basketball narrative that's been dead for so long. So how refreshing was that to see? It's like something we haven't really seen since, like Reggie Miller. I wasn't even around back then, but I've seen the film. It's how refreshing is it to see something like that again in MSG?
Well, put it this way. What other fan base would scream at another player about their receding hairline?
Exactly.
It's great. What was it? Trae, you are bald, or you're going bald, or whatever.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Just great. We need that. And I tell you what, I give Trae Young a lot of credit. If he doesn't hurt his ankle, maybe it's the Hawks going to the championship.
Right.
He just was absolutely fantastic. And to me, the loss of the Hawks looks less bad given how everything played out.
Right.
They have Trae Young, and they get Capella rolling to the bucket. Remember, the Knicks series, DeAndre Hunter was healthy and did a heck of a job on Randle.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a key factor. And you have those shooters, Bogdanovich, Gallo, Herter. Cam Reddish here in the last game against Milwaukee went off. The Hawks, look out for them.
Yeah.
So I think that the perspective of a 5-game loss to the Hawks changes given how well Atlanta turned out to play in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Now, Bill, these playoffs, I've called them the bizarro playoffs, the Twilight Zone playoffs, because it's been so unpredictable in regards to people getting hurt. Certain teams are having these long stretches or long runs in the playoffs. Do you think that the gamut of injuries that we've seen in these playoffs in the regular season, we never seen so many soft tissue injuries other than this year? Do you think that it's an outlier, that it's going to be an isolated incident in regards to having it be such a condensed season? Do you think that we can be able to get back to normal next season?
When you look at these injuries, if Kyrie Irving rolls his ankle on somebody's foot. That to me is just happenstance.
Right.
Kawhi Leonard tweaks a knee because he's pushed a little bit. That is happenstance.
Right.
Giannis goes up, comes down awkwardly, and tweaks his knee. I don't know. Can you make the case that these are injuries because of fatigue? I don't think you can. I think you're playing basketball and ankles roll and people come down. It's just unfortunate that a lot of these guys have gotten hurt. But, Phoenix with Paul back off of COVID looks 100% healthy. And, you got to stay healthy. That's one of the things about all this. I don't know about Giannis. It looks like his status is going to be up in the air. But, part of it is having the depth to withstand the injuries and staying healthy.
Definitely.
It kind of goes back to where, Bill, you mentioned about having top heavy teams, and it's not, I 100% agree. And I remember saying this when the Nets acquired Harden. When they acquired Harden, they really that's what they had to give up the haul for. And I've never agreed with the notion of sacrificing bench depth in order to go top heavy. That ties into this whole injury narrative, especially when you're tying this to stars that have history of being able to stay on the floor. Durant's had major injuries. Kyrie's had major injuries. Harden has missed time. So do you think that Brooklyn is kind of in a worse position today than they were when they acquired Harden on that day, that they sacrificed all that depth?
Well, Dinwiddie got hurt. That he was on the roster and got hurt. And that was a big factor. I think it's difficult. I really do. The window for this group is what, another year or two max?
Yeah, very small. Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, and I don't know. Kyrie Irving, when he's healthy, doesn't seem like he wants to play a lot. So, look, I'm a Knick guy. I don't know what you guys think. The Nets just don't seem like, even with this group, that they've been able to gain much traction in the market.
Oh, no.
And I've never been happier that Kevin Durant wears such big shoes when that last shot in Game 7 was a 2 and not a 3.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely I threw a little party when I saw that.
I'm really glad that the Bucks won. And I mentioned this. Look at the Bucks' depth and the Suns' depth.
Yeah.
And these are the two teams that are in the finals.
Yeah,
the Bucks went 2-0 without Giannis against Atlanta, and Phoenix hung in there without Chris Paul. Cameron Payne was great.
Hey, they were 2-0 as well without Chris Paul. Yeah,
right.
Definitely. So, I mean, that kind of goes into my question, Bill. Who do you have in the NBA Finals? Who has the upper advantage? If both teams are healthy going in, who do you have winning in how many games?
I think Phoenix has better players. Aside from Holiday and Middleton, and those two guys, you never know what you're going to get. And with the question mark about Giannis, I think Phoenix has got they got the great play in Booker. Paul's playing great. They got Ayton. Crowder's been great. Cameron Payne off the bench. And the one guy that the Knicks should have had, I wish they had, is Bridges, because they could have had Bridges instead of Knox.
Yeah.
And things may be different with that team, with our team, if they had Bridges. But I think Phoenix has got more depth. I think Phoenix wins it in 6 games.
And they're better coached, in my opinion.
Definitely. Yeah. Monty Williams, although Tibbs beat out Monty Williams for Coach of the Year.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. But listen, I would have been fine if they would have won Coach of the Year, because they were both great. They were both great. You know what I mean? That would have been fine to me as well. So, Bill,
what was the bigger surprise, though? Phoenix went unbeaten in the bubble, and they signed Chris Paul.
Yeah.
The Knicks win 41 when the over-under is, what, 22.5?
Absolutely.
That's why I go with – our argument was Tibbs all the way because of –
I agree. I definitely agree. That's a fair point. Now, Bill, we always ask this question at the end of the show. We get different reactions. Sometimes it's the same. Who is your greatest athlete in any sport?
Bo Jackson.
He didn't even hesitate, man.
Didn't have to think.
No one has been as great as he was. Deion Sanders was really good, but Bo Jackson in baseball was catching baseballs with his bare hand,
right,
and hitting the ball out of ballparks. And he was a phenomenal running back.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't have messed up his hip, who knows what he would have become down the line in the NFL. Bo Jackson, to me, best all-around athlete.
If you're hitting home runs on Wednesday and scoring touchdowns on Sunday, I mean, you got to give him some props.
Right. Deion Sanders was really good too, but I think Bo was better.
It's funny, we've gotten back-to-back Bo Jackson now. We had Ryan Field from ABC News Channel 7 on, and he picked Bo, and now you pick Bo. So that's definitely it's we're getting more Bo Jackson.
Bo's getting his chops.
Yeah,
incredible. I don't know if you guys are old enough to have watched him, but he was phenomenal.
Oh, now, yeah, I'm old enough. I've seen a lot of Bo. But Bill,
And the ad campaigns,
yeah,
Bonos, whatever.
Bonos, yeah.
Nike was incredible. Yeah.
His sneaker was selling better than Jordan's at one point. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
he was really like that cultural guy for us, man. So he definitely left an impact in the sporting world.
No question. Remember, he was able to come back from the hip and play baseball pretty effectively.
Right, exactly. And there was no reason for him to come back because that hip injury was devastating. So, definitely is a super athlete. But Bill, thank you so much for coming on our show, man. We really appreciate it. It's been great. We watch you all the time. You're definitely a legend. I love your banter with Wally and Allen. So, keep up the good work and hopefully we can have you on the show again.
Anytime. Thank you guys so much. Thanks so much for having me on. Have a great rest of the summer and go Knicks.